This is the Power Movement.
Welcome to the Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and my guest this week is Ben Weis. Ben isn't a household name, but in the world of rollerblading, Ben Weis is a legend. I managed him when I was team manager for K2, and Ben will always be one of my favorites. I spent a lot of time traveling with Ben and seeing him absolutely destroy his body, obstacles, and everything else in his way. And that was cool to see. But then, Ben dove headfirst into a world of addiction with that same relentless style, and it spiraled out of control. Over the years, I've heard so many crazy Ben Weis stories, and I've kept my distance from him. So much so that a couple of years back, when I was in Minnesota for an event, I stopped by a store to get a battery for something. In the store was a dude that looked so familiar, but he was on the phone, so I didn't bother him. I head out to my car after I purchase my battery, and the guy runs out, looks at me, and says, "Hey, are you Mike Powell?" I'm like, "Why, yes, I am Mike Powell. Do I know you?" He goes, "It's Mike Weis, Ben's cousin." And then he shows me his wife's tattoo, just like Uncle Ben's, and we shoot the shit for a minute. The last thing I tell Mike Weis is, "Hey, if you see or talk to Ben, please don't tell him you saw me. I feel like if you do, he'll end up with my credit card number or something." Ben was a really sketchy dude at that point, and in the past 6 months, well, it's getting better. Man, this is a long intro, and I could make it so much longer with more wild Ben Weis stories, but it's way better to hear these stories from the horse's mouth, so that's what we're going to do. Before we get into it, I need to thank Jeff Sackman. Jeff is a listener, and he heard me talking about my Traeger and said I had to try some of Joe's Kansas City barbecue sauce. So he sent me a care package full of barbecue sauce, a hoodie, and some socks. Thanks, Jeff. I did up some St. Louis-style ribs yesterday, used the sauce on them. You were right. Those ribs are so good, the sauce is amazing, and really, everything I cook is amazing these days. The Traeger is game-changing. I put meat on the grill, monitor it on my phone, and when the food comes out, everyone is blown away with how good of a cook I am, and I really don't do shit. It's great. What else is great are my amazing sponsors that I hope you all support, as they really do make this show happen. They are Evo, Stanley, Spy Optic, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Finally, I want to ask you to follow me on Instagram at The Powell Movement, subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you listen to it on, and now, without further ado, let's talk to Ben Weis.
So me and the wifey are trying to extend the family.
How's that been going? Really fun?
Trying's the fun part, but it's going.
Trying is the fun part, but everything else is very expensive, time-consuming.
Yes.
It's a whole nother world, but super fun in a totally different way.
Exactly. Growing up.
Speaking of growing up, you grew up in where? Austin, Minnesota?
Yeah, Minnesota. Spamtown. It's where they make Spam. In the land of 10,000 lakes.
What was the Weis clan like growing up? I mean, it was you had a brother, Aaron. How many other brothers and sisters did you have?
It was all boys. And when I mean all boys, it was all fucking boys. And it was Thanksgiving and Christmas was tackle football and fights in the yard. I mean, it was just crazy. I had 3 older brothers, so there was 4 of us Weis guys. Out of the 4, there's still my oldest brother, Christian, who I don't talk to, and my older brother, Jordan, who I'm kind of waiting to reconnect with him. Aaron passed away, which was sad. But out of that clan, they've all had 9 boys. So I have 9 nephews, no nieces. And out of those 9 nephews, they all at one time decided to skate. So Uncle Ben was, I don't know, Uncle Ben.
The big influence to those kids. But for you growing up, was your mom and dad in the house when you're growing up, or was it like a single mom?
It was just me and my mom pretty much, because there was such a gap in between the older 3 and then me. I was pretty much an accident, as you would call it. My mom was actually told that, she wasn't going to have kids anymore. I believe she even went through a short menopause phase, if you could believe that. And then I showed up, and all the older brothers were gone, so it was pretty much just a single spoiled child lifestyle with just me and mom. No father whatsoever. I had a bunch of influences in the male category, A lot of people would try to step in and step up, but no one ever really was my dad. And then I didn't meet my real father until years later.
I imagine that you're the type of dude, based on your personality, that you would go to other friends' houses and their families would almost take you in and make you one of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had no problems with that. I was actually very grateful and learned a lot by clicking up with other kids' dads. Back in the day when I was doing karate, taekwondo, me and my elementary school best friend Zach, we each got our black belts together, but at the same time, I'll never forget this, his dad, who passed away not too long ago, his dad taught me how to throw a spiral football. I'll never forget that. That's a pretty big moment for me as a kid, was learning how to throw a football.
Yeah, I can imagine all those little things that a dad usually does when some moms step in and do it. I don't know if your mom did, but
She tried, but she got scared to death. I mean, she even tried to do the skating mom thing, and she just couldn't take it. She couldn't take me falling, and if you remember, I know how to fall, and I know how to fall good. I know how to crash.
was it a tough upbringing for you, or you said spoiled? So, I mean, I was thinking that the Weis clan was the ones that were known for shit in your town, of being boisterous,
yeah.
outgoing, but also, like, you got to watch out for that Weis family.
Exactly. Yeah, I took a lot of shit, man. I got my ass beat as a child by my brothers. There's a lot of jealousy growing up between the family. Since Dad left, and I mean, he ran away with his tail between his legs, there was a big competition between me and my brothers who was going to be the one that's going to be the patriarch, who was going to take our family to the next level. And unfortunately, none of us could get our shit together. So maybe I'll get it this time. I don't know.
Well, you had your shit together for a while. We'll get into that. But do you play other sports growing up?
Oh, yeah. No. I played baseball. I was really good at basketball. Like I said before, taekwondo, cross country. I won a cross country race when I was a kid. I learned how to become a very good, efficient long distance runner, which I still can do, even though I occasionally smoke cigarettes, which is terrible. But I'm quitting that. And I got out of football quick because of my size. Winter sports, I always wanted to play hockey, but could never afford it. It was very expensive.
Yep.
But Minnesota is big time hockey. In fact, that's how I got really good at rollerblading, actually. It was because of ice pond hockey. Ice pond hockey was free, and everybody rollerbladed in the summer and played roller hockey. And unfortunately, fortunately for me, rollerblading became free. In fact, eventually getting paid to do it. Didn't plan on that, but...
How did you get into rollerblading? I mean, you're playing pond hockey and learning how to skate.
Yeah.
But it's probably 97, 98, and the sport is exploding. And in Minnesota, it's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. In fact, they were founded. Rollerblade company was founded in Minnesota.
Scott Olson.
Yep. And let's see, I would go to the roller rink on Fridays and Saturday nights. That's where I met my first girlfriend. And then, of course, rollerblading became very popular, almost a fad, as we'll call it. But then it just became really cool. I don't know why it became so cool so fast, because to me, it's never changed. It's always been the same. Once I learned how to fucking slide on them poles, man, it's never changed. It's always been the same. But the transition from not being able to afford hockey to extreme skating, as we'll call it, was, I guess, to get chicks, dude.
So you got into rollerblading to get girls. How old are you when you get into rollerblading?
15.
Are you good right away?
Immediately, overnight.
Do you start entering all the local contests? Because at that point, there's skate parks everywhere. I think Third Layer is a big one for you, and they have a lot of contests.
I watched the previous generation, studied them. I was the type of skater who really watched a skate video till the tape wore out and literally just learned what looked cool to me. And I don't know how to explain it, but would get juiced and get hyped up by watching a video, and then I would just go out and try it. And then I would get hurt seriously trying it, but then somehow would figure it out, and there you go. But then you're right, like a lot of companies started dumping money and writing off taxes with these skate events. Like Target Market was a huge one. They were an anti-smoking corporation. They dumped a lot into skating. an early version of the corn nuts. So those weekly local and regional skating events, I mean, I made my living off of those because I'll be honest with you, man, this is going to sound really bad and cocky, but I don't remember fucking losing ever.
No, back then, I think it was you and the French brothers, and they would always end up second and third, and they were always bummed when you would show up at the contest because it meant that they wouldn't have a chance to win. And before you started skating, they were winning everything. So I think that was frustrating to them. And like you said, yeah, you weren't losing that much. But you're just about to graduate high school. It's 98, right. 99.
Yep.
Is there any direction in your life? I'm guessing college isn't a thought for you.
Well, in a way it was because I had to please Mom. God bless her heart. So my senior year of high school, I won my sectional. Then I won the regionals. I was like seated in right behind Mike Radabaugh at the ASA World Championships. And I went there 2 years in a row, damn near seated to turn pro. And 1 year my mom came with and actually financed the trip because I was skating for Solomon at the time and didn't know how to really work the angle of having sponsors pay. I never asked until I started working with you. I never really figured out like, hey, it never hurts to ask. So I just never asked before. I always thought it was just handed and given to you. So 2 years in a row, I fail and flop at the final level. And then 1 year, I won it. I didn't have a skate deal. I was riding Flow for Razors, and I won the whole damn thing. It was crazy.
Was that 2000?
Yeah, that was the year 2000, Vegas. I wasn't even supposed to go that year because I was entering college. Because my mom was like, all right, well, you took a year off of college. You went to the finals. You fucking blew it. You suck. Get over it. Go to school. So I did. I was signed up for college. And then my sister-in-law, never forget this, my roommate at the time, Mike Silva, he had earned a spot into going into the finals. This is the year me, Eric Bailey, and Silva, and Alex Broskow, we all went at the same class. Well, my roommate's going. He's getting on the plane tomorrow. And I was so furious because I was like, this is the year I could really win this shit. And I was pissed. I get a call that night. My sister-in-law was like, pack your bags. Me and you are going to Vegas. And I was like, what? She goes, despite what your mom says, I believe this is your year. You can do it. And so I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. And we went, me and my sister-in-law. And she's probably one of the biggest reasons we're having this conversation today. Despite the fact that we don't talk, that changed my life. That got me a profile in Daily Bread. That started a little mini buzz over who is this guy. Nobody really knew who I was except down in the local Midwest scene. They knew that if I showed up, I was getting paid. And I would leave. And I wouldn't come back until there was another contest. And I street skated for fun. And I didn't really get into filming video sections. I didn't get into that until later on. It was after the park scene. I was a park rat. I loved skate park, and it transitioned into street skating for me, and that's why I always got shit for like, oh, well, this is a normal handrail, but I bet if we find some 2x4s and some fucking wood, Ben will find some way to skate it. So that's kind of how it transitioned over.
For people that don't know Ben's style, it's go for broke. He's going to try the biggest stunt that there is at the event. And I don't know if it's always been that way. In the early days, were you actually going to win the contest?
Yes.
Or were you going for the crowds?
Both. It was both. And it worked. It clicked. And then that's how I got the nickname, the Ben Weis Show, or
Best Trick.
Yeah, Best Trick. I'll never live that fucking thing down. Oh, my God.
Well, I think that's an earned nickname. I mean, what you're known for at contests are a lot of times that you'll go to these contests, you might not qualify for the next round or skate well enough in your heat, but that doesn't stop you from skating. And it probably rubs some people the wrong way, but at the end of the day, people like seeing what you're going to do. Is if there's a final, there's 5 dudes who have skated all day to get in the final. Ben Weis is going to steal the attention from the final for his stunt. And he's going to get his trick, and it might take him 30 times. You never land anything first try.
Oh, never.
Especially that big shit.
Yeah.
But it's like the 15th try is when you really get the juice. You got your hands up. You're looking for that adulation from the crowd.
Man. Yeah, that's true. That couldn't have been said better. That's actually transitioned into making fun of myself doing street stunts, just like what you're talking about, death-defying stunts. You could get killed doing some of the shit that I tried when I was a youngster. And there might be one camera and one person watching. And believe it or not, me and that one person would connect and hype each other up and scream and pound our chests and rip our shirts off. And it didn't matter how many people were watching, it was all in my head.
If you Google Ben's name, the things that come up are Ben Weis jumps out of tree in 2014, the Ben Weis Show, Ben Weis bus stop stunt, Ben Weis mile high stunt, Ben Weis airborne stunt. All these contests where Ben's not going to win, but you're going to talk about him after the event. And did you go into events thinking that? Like, I don't care if I win, I'm going to do the biggest fucking shit here.
Yes, actually. It wasn't that way until I knew I was going to have my rent covered regardless. When I didn't have my rent guaranteed was when I took the contest part very seriously. And I did make it through and skate a lot of finals and get paid on the normal contest part. But man, when it was relaxed to the point where it was like, you know what, man, my paycheck's coming next month. I don't give a fuck. I'm doing this. This is the biggest thing that's ever been constructed. And I'm going to try it because I'm never going to get the opportunity to ever do this again. Because it's never going to be this weather, this people, this constructed obstacle. And a lot of the times, I didn't even skate the obstacle. It was more like the bleachers attached to the obstacle or the roof or the rafters over the obstacle. You know what I mean? It just, everything seemed to come together for that one moment in time where it was just like, I'm going to fucking huck it.
And that was your style with everything that you did.
And that literally transitioned into everything I did. And then when I learned how to do bad shit that I don't really want to get into too much because I'm really trying to move past it. But when I was a bad person, I was a really bad person.
Well, we're going to get to that later. You're not a bad person at this point, Ben, and you're getting out of being a bad person now in life. But in our storyline, you and I are about to meet. It's about 2001. We're in Texas at the ASA World Championships. There's a gap to rail. You and Alex Broskow are skating it. No one's skating this feature because it's a total death type feature. You skate it for like 2 hours, just falling from like 15 feet to asphalt, getting back up, doing it over and over. And I'm like, who is that guy? To some guys on our team, they're like, Ben Weis. I'm like, man, I've been hearing about that guy and seeing some clips. I go to talk to you, and that's how your whole K2 paid lifestyle, and you're not getting paid that well, but that's when it starts.
Yeah. I think the first trip you sent me on was to an ASA where they had the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I remember this where I skated the contest. I skated okay during the contest, but I was like, man, this just doesn't feel right. I didn't get to put my stamp on it. Well, then the best trick comes up, and I remember the vert best trick got filmed before the street best trick, and the vert skaters got so pissed off, man. They're like, what is going on? They're letting these street kids skate on the vert. What the fuck? You know, I remember these guys going crazy because we weren't even skating the vert ramp as the vert ramp. We were just using the coping. We were launching from where the spectators were, and they had a perfect runway gap to the coping. It was a death-defying leap of faith to a grind. And I remember landing like a full cab true Mizu, and I should have won the shit. Somebody complained, and I got fourth place. Didn't get any money. Didn't get the guitar. Well, then they moved the best trick contest over to the street competition, and I ended up climbing into the bleachers. I grinded the outside support rails, and I had to do a rail jump over where the scaffolding locked together, the handrails. I decided to do a rail-to-rail transfer, then jump from the second grind over 2 sets of walkways and land in the street course, but there was nowhere to land. And I broke my skate. I broke the wheel. The whole back part of my skate broke off. And it was on TV, and you're like fucking trying to hide my broken skate.
I do remember that.
And that's when you were like, fucking, this kid's going to every contest.
I knew if you were going to go to a contest, especially with the televised contest, K2 wanted to be on TV.
Yeah.
And you were the guy who was going to be on TV every time. I mean, your personality was the life of the party anywhere you went. It was the Ben Weis Show all the time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just when you were skating. It was like if you were going to be around Ben Weis, the way you carried yourself was so different than any other skater. The way you skated was so different than any other skater.
Well, I appreciate that because it's still the same. I don't skate any different today than I did back then. In fact, we have a skate contest this weekend coming up, the Mile High Battle. I mean, every year I seem to do something stupid to get everybody's attention, so we'll see what happens this year.
With you, the thing is, there is no pain tolerance, it seems like. When we used to travel, I remember you taking falls where your elbow would swell to the point where it looked like there was a grapefruit in your elbow. You would take no medicine, no anything. You would just draw pictures on the big swell bows and kind of make faces, and that was how you dealt with it.
Yeah, and then I did learn how to drain my own hematomas from a registered nurse, and she gave me it, believe it or not, she gave me a bunch of needles to do it on the road. It was crazy. That's insane. I'll never forget being in Detroit in the bathroom. This kid, Josh, had the same thing going on. And everyone's like, oh my God, we got to take him to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, chill the fuck out. I opened up my skate bag and it looked like a fucking EMT. I had everything but a defibrillator. Everyone's like, what the fuck? I got iodine out. I'm washing his knee off with iodine. I stab his knee with this needle and I turn the dial on the needle and it just explodes. And everyone's like, what the fuck? And I was like, you good? He's like, I'm good. I'm like, we're good. We're good. Let's go. Let's drink. Let's party, fun, and spark the blunt.
Now it is time for me to take a quick sponsor break. My first sponsor is Evo. And if you haven't been to Evo's stores in Seattle, Portland, Denver, or Whistler, or visited their website, evo.com, you are missing out on the best deals in action sports and beyond. Evo has something for everyone in the family, and they always have a great sale going on. They carry all the best brands in bike, surf, skate, wake, ski, and snowboard, and have all the clothing and outerwear you'll need for your adventure or just to look great when it's time to head back to school or the bar. Right now, you can find some great end-of-season deals on bikes and surfboards and check out all the new ski and snowboarding gear that's hitting the floor daily over at Evo. Evo offers free shipping on orders over $50, a low price guarantee, and a no-hassle return policy. Please support the show by buying everything you need from Evo. My next sponsor is Stanley, another iconic Seattle brand that has been ahead of the curve since 1913. While we all know Stanley for creating that iconic green bottle that kept your grandpa's coffee hot all day long, they still do that and a lot more these days. They still are all about adventure. They still are all about keeping your beverages hotter or colder than any other product ever created. And they have always been the right choice when it comes to the planet. If you are still using single-use plastics for your beverages, it's time to make a change for the environment. And now I'm making it easier than ever to do that. You can save 30% on all Stanley products when you head on over to stanley-pmi.com, buy some stuff. When you check out, enter the code TPM30. That's all one word, no spaces, and you're done. I should also mention that when you buy from Stanley, you are also supporting cool projects like this podcast and the new movie from Matchsticks Productions. Those are my sponsors. When I first met you, you didn't seem to smoke weed very much.
In fact, if you remember this, I used to steal weed from you guys and hide it. So when you guys would all start complaining and getting all fucking antsy-pantsy on the road, oh, we got to get some weed, we got to do this, we got to do this. Actually, I got this little collection right here that you guys left. You're like, what? And I didn't even smoke.
Which is very nice of you. Eventually that does transition into smoking because our team didn't really drink as much as they smoked, I feel like.
Right.
And that kept everybody pretty chill. It made my life a lot easier.
Yeah, that's because you came in pretty much after Sean Robertson.
I was with Sean for a year or two when Sean left.
Yeah, nah, no more of that. And I didn't really get into that until I was pretty much told by the industry that's what cool is. And if I could go back in time, man, that's not what cool is. I was more trying to copy than innovate when it came to partying lifestyle. I regret that.
Well, before we get to any regrets, because we still got a long way to go.
Damn it.
The following summer, it's time for us to go out on tour. I'm going to plan a month on the road. We're going to go from skate park to skate park, shop to shop, contest to contest. We're going to go to the Gravity Games. And you sell me on a plan because Ben always has huge plans. When you say you weren't afraid to ask, you would call me asking for shit all the time. And I'd have to say no a lot. But in this case, you call me and say, hey, we're going to need 2 vehicles. You're going to have the K2 vehicle. But I've got this minivan that's got a TV in it. It's got all kinds of shit in it. I'll sell it to you for $500. We can take this thing on the road. We can graphic it up. And it's the K2 support vehicle. And I'm like, Ben, we do need a second vehicle. We're going to take you out on that minivan. And then I get to Minnesota, and this minivan is a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah. The minivan made it to the exit of Woodward, Camp Woodward.
It did. Mark Engelhardt had won the Gravity Games that year. We were on top of the vert ramp watching him win. First time he beat the Yasutoko brothers, which most people don't beat.
Oh, my God. That was amazing to watch that.
That was amazing. And then the whole thing became really fun because Mark Engelhardt's a quiet person. So we decided to put his name in big letters on the outside of the vehicle. Mark Engelhardt, Gravity Games champion.
Yeah.
And everywhere we went, it was about talking about Mark Engelhardt. It was so much fun until your vehicle breaks down. And I don't know if you remember, but the guy that pulls over to talk to us for a minute when it broke down was one of the BMXers. I forget his name, but he was in a Mercedes and he pulled up going to Woodward as well. Kind of like, hey guys, laughed at us because there was nothing he can do. I don't think he had room in the car. And it was kind of a metaphor for where the sports were going. Like the rollerbladers in a broken down car on the side of the road, the BMX dude going to Woodward in his Benz. And that might have been the beginning of the decline. But for you, it still felt like things were on fire.
Yeah.
You're probably making total from rollerblading $20,000 a year.
Yeah, but that's like a fucking fortune to a kid who's like homeless.
Yeah. And you've always got people helping you. There's always a Ben Weis entourage. You always have a girlfriend and two buddies that are always willing to do everything for you, where you can sit back and kind of be that CEO of your lifestyle.
Oh my God, you're making me sound like fucking... So this is horrible.
But it's kind of true.
But it's true. Yeah, goddamn. Shit.
But everybody loved you the whole time. So that's the thing is your magnetic personality made these people want to do things like that. So it's not like you were totally manipulating them.
They got out of it what they wanted, you know? They were bored. They were bored shitless. You know, every time I've talked to an ex-girlfriend or a friend from the past or something who you would think that, like, we'd parted on bad terms, they always say, like, man, I never had as much fun ever again as when I was with you. And that always felt like a compliment because it's never where you're at. It's who you're with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I said, you were the life of the party. You were always having fun. I don't think you thought about long term by any means. You lived for the moment more than anyone.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun until it wasn't.
Yeah.
But I think the defining moment of your skating career, at least most skaters' careers, are covers of Daily Bread and VG profiles. You got both of them. And what goes into filming a segment for VG? How long does that take and what toll does that take on your body?
Well, this will be a two-part answer. What goes into it is you have to devote your entire life to your passion. And no matter what it is, whether it's a VG profile or if it's just a little online blog for the local kid who's just trying to start a zine, you take it seriously. You want to be taken seriously when it comes to your art and your passion. You don't want to be the jokester. No offense, you don't want to be the naked guy. I'm sorry, Adam Bender. But then again, Adam was super good, you know? He just had a fucking blast being naked and making fun of it. So I gotta respect that. And out of Adam, we get Luke. And Luke is putting on the event this weekend. So everything has a rebirth and a recycle and everything. And everybody gets a second chance at being great. And that's what it was so cool about filming a section is you can fall. It wasn't a contest. You could fall and you could skate until you got it right. And when you landed it right is what counted. And that's what was so fun about filming with Pat Lennon and Dave Payne and making sections like that. And the best experience I had with a camera, film, and all that stuff was my Daily Bread profile. And that was shot on real film. That wasn't when you could just look in the viewfinder and see, oh, we got the shot. No. This is Busta. And Busta has gone on to become a huge photographer. That motherfucker owes me at least a phone call. Because I helped that motherfucker's profile explode. Because I'll never forget my Daily Bread profile cover shot. That was a team effort. We had to haul a light pole to a cliff. It took 20 people to make that shot happen. And it was real film. And when it happened, when it went down, there was people fighting over who gets the video, who gets the still, who, you know, whatever. And me and Busta were just looking at each other like, we just got the cover of Daily Bread, dog. Yeah, man. It just all has to be taken seriously, and those are all different highlights in a career, as if you want to call it, and trying to hold on to that career and shit. Man, that was a big fear for me, was knowing that it was coming to an end. When it just felt like it was just booming for me, it was when it was falling all to pieces. My very first X Games experience was the last X Games experience.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That was heartbreaking. But if you do Google my name, which happens quite a bit, to make sure people know I'm not fucking crazy, that does come up. It says X Games athlete. That's pretty cool. I like having that little title under my belt. So it just sucks. Are we even part of it at all? Even as part of like a demo? I know they used to do vert demos, fly the Yasutokos in and shit and let them skate on the big ramp, but are we even a part of that anymore?
I think there was 1 year where the Yasukokos did a demo, but that's long gone in terms of looking at a skate park and the dynamics of it. When you were starting to skate, it was a lot of rollerbladers and the skateboard numbers weren't as strong as they were maybe 10 years prior. If you look at it now, there's more skateboarders, but there's a ton of scooters, and they've almost taken the place of where the rollerblade kid was. That's the big hole. And in 10 years, you're not going to have kids growing up on rollerblading except for a handful. So that's going to be even tougher for the sport.
Yeah.
But in your career, we traveled a ton. I think the standout trip for you and I and Eric Shrine is we went to Amsterdam for the IMYTA.
That was amazing. God, that was so fun. Thank you for that one.
Hey, you're welcome. I mean, the trip itself was we were going to visit some shops. We're going to skate at this contest. We were going to drink beer. We were going to go to coffee shops. And that was what our plan for the trip was. We had a week there. We did the contest that we were at. I think we went to 2 or 3 shops for a little bit, not too long.
Yeah.
And then it was weird because when we were over there, people would recognize you. It wasn't like the States.
Yeah, it wasn't like that at all. I remember, well, my last name, Wise, is German as shit, you know, Weiss. I remember we were all getting off the train one time, and we had no clue who these fucking kids were. They were in regular clothes, like polo shirts and shit. They didn't even look like they skated. This one dude just grabs me by my backpack, and he's like, "This is Ben Weis! Oh my God! He frontside anything! Frontside anything!" It was just huge. It was like the NBA over there, dude. It was fucking awesome. And then I'll never forget when I really did get high for the first time on marijuana in Amsterdam. I remember standing up on the table of this coffee shop going, "That's it! I am high. I am high. I made it. I made it." And man, that's not even the start of it. Or it was the start of it.
We go from Amsterdam over to Frankfurt, Germany, where we go skate with 2,000 people and do a social skate. When it's time to go to the airport the next morning, we go to Frankfurt Airport. And the K2 representative months earlier had told me that Frankfurt has 2 airports. But I was younger and I didn't note that. So we get to the airport and I get onto my plane and you guys don't fly for an hour. What happens?
There's 2 airports, man. You booked me and Shrine out of a whole different airport. There's Frankfurt, Germany, and then there's Frankfurt Hahn. And we're going out of Frankfurt Hahn. And for some reason, everybody over there listens to American Top 40 English fucking speaking radio. Everybody understands and speaks English, but if you speak English, they don't want nothing to do with you. It took me and Shrine an hour after our flight left just to figure out we were in the wrong fucking city. Then we took a shuttle over to another airport, and luckily you got us on a flight and got us out of that country. Otherwise, we'd probably still be stuck there today.
I remember that Eric was losing his mind at one point there.
Oh, God.
You didn't have any money because when you guys traveled, it was a weird thing where you, Eric, everybody would travel with no money in their bank account, no money in their pocket, and just like, hey, we're here to skate and everything else better be paid for because I don't have any money.
Right.
So you guys have no cash over there and you were doing tricks for money.
Right, exactly. Trying to just get food money. It was crazy. And I'll never forget, like, I was just so grateful just to even be there that, like, I didn't care, man. I would eat 7-Eleven snacks. I didn't give a shit. And I remember listening to the older generation, like Lennon, for example. He came from more of a spoiled team with the Matt Lacrosse era. they were eating steaks and fucking renting luxurious automobiles in Vegas and just blowing Willie Nelson tour money. You know what I mean? Just stupid money. And then you come along with like 3 times cut the budget, and you're still expected to put together a corporate winning team doing the best with what you got. You come across me. So I'm just grateful to be there. And here I am listening to these older folks just like, man, this fucking sucks, man. This fucking prepackaged sandwich shit, this is bullshit. I'm just like, fuck it, man. Like, we're here to skate. Let's have some fun. And I think it showed off in my style of skating where I just huck it and fuck it. No money in the wallet, but I just know that we'll be sleeping in a hotel booked on, what'd you use back then? Hotwire?
Yep.
I remember you sitting in the lobby. You was in the hotel's lobby's Wi-Fi going on Hotwire, booking into that hotel, saving, you were the right guy at the right time to do the right job.
Well, thanks, Ben.
Yeah. We got a lot further out of the budget with you. I don't know if it's...
because I'm Jewish?
I was just about to say that, and I didn't want to sound racist or prejudiced or anti-Semitic, but you're better with money.
Speaking of having no money, you get on that plane to go to England without a penny to your name.
Right.
They pick you up at the airport, and in pure Ben Weis fashion, you skate over there for a week. You end up with a cover of a magazine, and half the article is about how Ben Weis shows up in Europe with no money and makes shit happen.
Exactly. That's just how it was down.
Yeah. Money's starting to get to be a thing because you're 23 at this point. You're making your 18 grand a year or whatever from skating, and you need to supplement your income at some point.
Yep.
And have you started getting into trouble yet? Have you started selling drugs and doing that shit?
Yes. I was on the back end. I was financing it. And what was happening was I saw the end. I saw the end before a lot of other people did. And that's when I got into trouble because I didn't want it to end. And I knew that I could put on this lavish lifestyle, have large amounts of cash hanging around, but then I also just knew like this wasn't going to last. And so that's when I remember taking contest winnings and letting a friend flip it,
Yep.
It went good. The bad thing is it went good for quite a while until it went bad. And when it went bad, it went horribly bad.
One part where I think it could have gone bad is you came out to Seattle for a contest called the Barn Burner at Skate Barn, which is no longer around.
Yeah.
You skate the contest. You do great all weekend. It's Sunday night. We're at my house. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to get to the airport at 9 o'clock in the morning. And you look at me and you're like, Mike, I can't go home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean you can't go home? You're like, they're going to fucking kill me if I go back to Minneapolis. And I'm like, look, dude, you're not bringing this shit into my world and call this tough love or whatever. I'm taking you to the fucking airport at 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
You go back to Minnesota, but then 2 days later, I get a call from you. You're in Seattle. You say you want to come over to my house, and you do. We go upstairs to a room in my house to have this conversation about what's going on in your world. You broke out like $10,000 in cash.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I really knew there were problems like that in your world. What happened with that whole situation?
I think what happened was I was robbing Peter to pay Paul, if that makes any sense. Like, I was getting fronted large amounts of drugs from one drug dealer and then using money from another drug dealer to pay him to get more credit, more front. And I was spending the capital. I was spending the capital before the return of the investment, thinking like it was a sure thing. I wasn't spending the profits. I was dipping into, and all it was doing was creating this Ponzi scheme throughout me and my friends. It just sucked because when it came crashing down, it came crashing down hard. And when it came crashing down, I kept my fucking mouth shut. And that's part of the reason why I can still walk around and not look over my shoulder.
It's funny, you thought it was a sure thing. It made me think of a contest with you once we were at. It was like a Hermosa Beach Bash or something like that.
Oh my God, yes. The Mervin's Beach Bash.
And it got rained out or something. There was no contest. And you were so pissed when they said they were going to split the money between everybody because you literally said, I already spent that fucking money.
Oh my God, I'll never forget that shit, man. Oh, that was like when, what's his name was coming up? Ian McLeod. And he had shown up and he was crushing it. He was skating a little bower box and shit. And I was like, what is this piddly little tiny shit? I was like, why are you doing this to us? You guys are making us look like fucking idiots. 2 years ago, you guys have Jaron Grobe on the cover of Sports Illustrated and doing the loop, and now we're skating the fucking toy rails at the bunny park. What the fuck is going on? And then Ezekiel, Julio, all the heads got together and like, okay, well, we're going to split this $4,000 between 20 people. And I'm like, fuck that. I already spent that money.
Getting back to you coming to my house in Seattle with all that money, and that's really the first big thing happens that I had been aware of.
Yeah.
From there, I know something's going on with you, and we were talking about a pro skate. We had a prototype developed, and we were ready to put that out in a year or so, but it was like, hey, this kid's life is going to come crashing down, and you weren't really receptive to any feedback back then that I would have for you. We ended up doing one more contest in the Midwest, and at the end of that week, you and I sit in a car together, and I tell you that we're not going to renew your contract for the next year.
Yeah.
And it was a sad moment. I'm sure you're pretty bitter at that point. Where do you go from there? Because we lose touch for a while, and I don't think it's good.
That's when I said, okay, well, skating is fun. I'm never going to stop skating, but there's more money in drugs. And that's when I made the decision right then and there. I was like, okay, it's time to devote all my time to drugs.
Are you doing drugs at this point or just selling them?
Just selling them. I didn't start doing them until I started having people chase after me for money that I owed them. And then friends started dying, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't a fun experience. And so I didn't really start doing drugs until rollerblading died. And it's not dead. It's just when it died for me, in a sense.
When it became a viable career option?
Yeah, when I couldn't put on my W-2 anymore, pro skater. Instead, I had to put on their piece of shit drug dealer. It really just, goddamn, I knew we were going to get into this and I should have prepared myself better. But I blocked so much of it out. Let's just say that there is never a sure thing, ever. I mean, I went to prison over it, almost went twice because of it. Put it this way. If I could go back and do some things different, I would do some things differently. I wouldn't necessarily change anything because it has made me the person who I am today, which fortunately for me, I'm married now and I'm about to celebrate another wedding anniversary on the 28th. Yay, yay, boo-hoo. Me and her have been through some shit together already. You can only imagine, as a team manager, what I put you through. Imagine what I put my life manager, my wife, through.
Now it is time for me to get into my final set of sponsors, and I'm going to start with Spy Optic. Spy has spent the past 25 years innovating the sunglass game, but more importantly, they've spent 25 years making you look good. The artists, athletes, and designers over at Spy not only live and breathe the action sports lifestyle, they like to party and try new things. And the newest of new is the 50/50 collection. Spy took the iconic frames, the Flynn, Discord, Cyrus, and Helm, and took their bottoms off. Literally. They stripped down these popular frames, leaving them semi-rimless and ready for some action. It's an awesome upgrade to the glasses I already love. And if you wear sunglasses and listen to this podcast, support me, save some money, and make yourself look good by heading over to Spy Optic, pick out some sunglasses. I highly recommend the Helm 50/50. Head to checkout and save 20% by entering the code POWEL20. That's all one word and the number 20. My final sponsor is the 10 Barrel Brewery out of Bend, Oregon. They have been brewing my favorite Northwest beer since 2006, and they have a couple of new flavors that I'm going to tell you about. The first is Profuse Juice, a hazy IPA that kind of reminds me of Out of Office. It's got a great flavor, and a percentage of sales benefit the Surfrider Foundation. The second beer, Smash, is a lighter wheat ale that I drank a ton of while I was in Bend. You can't go wrong with either of these beers, and they're great to drink outside. And 10 Barrel is all about drinking beer outside and supporting all things snow. You can find out a lot more about the company and the beer over at Fully Aligned. That's 10 Barrel's brand new podcast that lets you peek behind the curtain over at 10 Barrel. Next time you're at the store, buy some 10 Barrel and support the brand that really makes a difference in the sports we love, the 10 Barrel Brewery. Those are my sponsors. Now we are going to get back into the podcast. There's a head case aspect of you too, where we didn't bring it up and I should have earlier, but when you were 24 years old or 23 years old, You got a tattoo of the number 25 on your chest.
Yeah.
And you walked around telling everyone you were going to kill yourself on your 25th birthday.
Yeah.
And I call bullshit on that all the time. I mean, I was like, you're not going to kill yourself.
Yeah, I know. And then my brother did it. My brother killed himself when I was 25. That right there and then there was a wake-up call. And it really was. I got my ass into college, went and got myself 3 college degrees. And then after college was over, I gave skating another run again. And I put my heart into it again. And that's when I linked up with the con artist and just started traveling again back in like 07 to 09. And then went for it again. And then once everyone started saying, oh, you're the greatest again, you're the greatest, then I started looking for other avenues to keep it going again. And that's when trouble crept in. And now I've learned the warning signs of triggers, let's say. A is when everyone tells you you're the shit. You're not the shit. You're perceived as the shit. And it's up to you to fucking balance it. And it's really not just like a persona or whatever. It really is me putting it out there. It's not a show. And that's where I kind of get a little flattered, but at the same time get a little pissed off because it's not a show. It's my life. And at the same time, I made it that way. So I'm responsible for that. But another trigger is large amounts of cash, which is why my family does not let me near any amount of money. In fact, my father-in-law just not too long ago, a couple months ago, was like, son, my biggest fear in life is when you have $2,000 in your pocket because that's enough for you to kill yourself. And God damn it, we want you around. We want you to have your shit together and we want grandkids from you. So it's a two-way street. As much as I want rollerblading to be on TV, I don't really want my kids in the future to ever have to deal with achieving their dreams too early. And that's another thing is I'm a little pissed off about is I should have set my goals higher. Being a pro skater, when you're 14, 15 years old and you're reading Daily Bread religiously in fucking science class and you're not even paying attention to what the teacher's saying because you know in 3 years you're going to be on the cover of that magazine. You don't give a fuck what anyone says. You know what you're going to do. It happened too soon. Look at Aaron Feinberg, man. Holy shit. I had a fucking perfectly laid out map of what not to do with when you reach the top. And I did it anyway, because it's too damn fun.
When you start getting fucked up, what kind of drugs are you doing? Are you doing coke? Are you smoking crack? Are you doing meth? I don't know. I've lost track of you.
Oh, shit. My drug of choice, believe it or not, even though I didn't have a pain tolerance or a pain threshold, my body sure loved the euphoric opiates. And my drug of choice ended up being heroin.
Using needles?
Absolutely.
You're normally 5'9", 160. What was the lowest you ever got to?
112 pounds.
Oh, Jesus. Do you ever OD?
Oh, my God. In fact, yeah.
Is it okay to talk about or is it not?
Yeah, it's okay to talk about because it's true. And it needs to be told. A year ago, and this is not that long in the grand scheme of things, so a year ago, I'm staring at myself in the mirror at a gas station. There's an Uber outside of the gas station to pick me up from this gas station to take me to the airport. I'm about to get on a plane to go to Chicago with my wife to go be on the Judge Mathis television show.
Huh.
I am suing a friend, and my friend is suing me, and we have an agreement that whoever wins, it doesn't matter who wins, because we're going to split the money. It's all for drugs. And so, literally, I looked at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, I'm about to go on the fucking Judge Mathis television show, and I have a 8-ball of heroin, man. And I loaded it up into 2 rigs. I didn't even make it through the first half plunge of the first needle, and I was dead. And I was dead for about 17 minutes. They took my picture to show me how blue I was. When I woke up in the emergency room, the EMTs showed me the picture of myself laying on the bathroom floor. And I woke up to my wife. You know, the flight's gone. That whole scheme is the cat and the rat's out of the bag. My wife is standing at the side of the bed. And she's just saying, is this it? Like, is this enough for you? You're dead. You're fucking dead. You know?
Yeah.
And it was enough. Yeah, I've had my slip-ups and my relapses or whatever, but Right now, I'm sober as a judge, and I've got tomorrow, and I'm sober as fuck tomorrow because I know I'm going to be. I got shit going on, and I need to be accountable to my family. They're looking at me like, this is it. If you fuck up again, don't come home.
I was stalking you on the internet for a couple of years, just seeing where you were to find out what was going on. And I messaged your wife a couple different times. She was distraught, but still by your side the whole time, where I can tell you the truth. I was kind of like, hey, he's a drug addict, and it's tough to trust a drug addict, and it's tough to try to wait around for one. But she was like, he's my husband, and I'm going to wait for him. She told me a crazy story about when you proposed to her. She was driving 80 miles an hour, and you got on the windshield of her car and said, tell me you love me.
Yeah, that happened. In fact, we went to a speakeasy. The bar didn't even open until 2 a.m., so what does that tell you?
Yeah.
So it's 5 in the morning. She's sober. The sun's coming up. It's a week before our wedding, and I was sitting in the passenger side, and everyone thought I was passed out drunk. Well, I was rolling down the window. They thought I was going to get some air or puke. I rolled down the window. She's going 80 miles an hour down the interstate. I climb out the car, leap from the passenger window to the hood and the windshield. I'm screaming at her at the top of my lungs. She politely hits her hazards, slows down, merges over to the shoulder, stops at a very comfortable speed, slows down, and then proceeds to let me back in the vehicle. We get in the car. Nothing happened. We get home. She fucking unloads at me, dude. Packing her bags type shit.
Huh.
I call my mom. My mom was still alive at this time. And I said, I don't know what the fuck's going on. I just did this to Taylor. I go, how do I know she's the one? And she goes, I'll tell you right now. She's the one. And you marry this fucking girl right now, because if you would have jumped on my fucking hood at 80 miles an hour, I would have slammed on the fucking brakes. And you would have fucking flown off the car and you'd be dead. So the fact that she took the fucking time to even think about you flying off the car and pulled over, marry her. Marry her. And so that's when I decided to marry her.
We were talking about the bad shit about drugs, and does it get to the point where you're living on the street and as bad as it gets?
Yeah, but that was by choice. I always had a home, but I was running away from it. I ran away to the street. I had a vehicle at the time. I had a phone, and I had rents. I had a good job. I had everything going for me. And it was another one of those self-sabotaging moments where everything was going good. And I left my keys, my phone, my wallet. I left everything except for just the clothes on my back. And I walked out of my house. And I didn't come home for 2 weeks.
On a bender?
Just on a bender. And I don't know how I survived. In fact, I probably was awake for the whole 2 weeks. For some fucking reason, my wife still loves me.
That's amazing. She's probably had so many sleepless nights thinking if you're even alive.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, she's stuck by you.
Yeah.
With the arrests and stuff, how much time of your life have you spent in a cage?
Good question. Fuck. Oh, my God. Well, they sentenced me to 27 months in prison. Out of the 27 months in prison, I did a year because I got myself into a boot camp program. And getting into boot camp got me out of prison early. And that put me on the right path for quite a while. That's when I transitioned over and tried out Red Bull Crash Dice.
Yeah, you were able to get a bit into that, and your frame broke on the first jump?
Oh, yeah. During warm-ups, my chassis broke because at the very end of the course, they had all these little moguls, like these little speed bumps. And instead of just riding over all 6 of the speed bumps, I aired the first one and aired over all of them, dude. And came down on the last one, and I hit the very tip of the last transition and shattered my whole chassis right off. Ice crashed. And that sucked because I was born to do that shit, man. That sucked. I wish I could get another chance at that.
You weren't born to check into prison, but that happened. And when you find out you're going to jail and you're in cuffs in a bus going to a prison, what the fuck's going through your mind?
Fuck. What's going through my mind is, A, am I going to recognize anyone there?
I guess you know some shady characters at this point.
Yeah. Which happened. The feeling of your first fight in a prison setting wasn't a first fight at all. I was sitting in the chow hall, and I was getting stared at by this kid for the whole time we're eating. For the whole time, dude, this kid just will not stop staring at me. And then they call for us to get up and go drop off our trays and shit. And then the kid comes up to me and I'm ready to fuck him up. And literally, he's like, "You're Ben Weis." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Dude, I'm from Mankato, Minnesota, dude." And I'm like, "Oh my God, fuck, dude. I thought you were gonna fucking..." And so me and him became cool. In fact, I made it all through prison without a fight because my personality, making people laugh, getting along. I had the nickname Hollywood probably at 2 different prisons. And I didn't get into any prison fights until county jail. I did a 3-month county jail stint down in Florida, and I got in 3 fights down there. For some reason, they were with giant 300-pound black dudes that just thought they could punk me out. Yeah, I got my ass beat, but since I stood up for myself, we became friends, and that was the end of it.
And that's how it goes in jail, just like you see in the movies. You have to fight back or you get no respect.
Yeah, exactly. And if you fucking at least stand up for yourself and swing back, no one's going to fuck with you.
And it was a miracle with those charges because you were faced with charges for stealing 60 grand worth of bonds and having all kinds of drugs.
Yep.
So you're facing 20 years in prison. You're in county jail getting beat up by dudes. And you go into court. Your wife actually comes down. She's going to bail you out. But they drop all the charges against you?
They dropped all the charges. And in fact, my wife would not have come down and bailed me out of jail. She bailed me out the night before I had arraignment. And if I would have gone to arraignment in all oranges, meaning if I would have gone to this arraignment through the county system and not from the street, they would have continued my case. And then they would have gone for a discovery of information. So what happened was it was like a little loophole where I went in front of the judge and they're like, "Oh, there's no information filed on you," meaning the county hasn't had enough time to even do the research on why you're even sitting here. So we're just going to drop all the charges. Have a nice day. And I said, "What?" And they go, "Yeah, everything is going to be dropped." I ran. I physically ran out of the courtroom and ran to the street. And my wife stayed back to find out if this was for real. She couldn't believe it either. So I'm sitting out in the parking lot, just fidgeting, waiting for her to come to the car. I hear her screaming out of the top of her lungs out of the courthouse, "It's real! It's fucking it's for real! You're going home!" And that was it, man. That was enough to scare me fucking straight, dude.
And now you're in a place where you're working for yourself, you're laying tile, and you're in a good spot. But I think you have to consider yourself an addict and know that day by day you have to make decisions. And if you fuck up, it's going to fuck up everything that you've worked this year for.
And I used to use that excuse too, like, "Oh, I don't have any kids. My decisions only affect me. If I fuck up, it's just my fuck up." That's not true at all. People have no idea just how many links in the chain. It's just a trickle-down effect of trust and love, and everything you build up just gets fucking destroyed the minute you get selfish. And I just learned it just can't happen again. I've already had encounters with this newfound sobriety I've had tests, and what have I done? I literally look the other way, avoid the situation, talk my way out of it by saying, yeah, I'll call you sometime. We'll meet up. Fuck that. I'll change my phone number. I'll get a new phone.
You're in a position where if you are to go back, the odds are you're not going to live.
Right.
Because you're not going to go half-ass on anything, because that's what
Never.
Ben Weis does. And that's usually when it happens, is when someone has a relapse, they go with what they used to do and they end up killing themselves.
Absolutely. On that note, because of staying sober and on the right path this time, I just got a text from Luke Bender yesterday saying, "Sayer Danforth's going to be in town on Thursday, wants to take pictures of you at the skate ramp in my backyard."
Awesome.
When has a text message or somebody reached out to me like that? It hasn't happened in years. The benefits of making the right decisions are already starting to trickle in, and that enough is enough to keep going. I don't know how else to explain that, except I am lucky to get out alive.
You are, and you're in the right headspace now, and you just have to keep it going that way. At this point in the show, I have something that I call inappropriate questions.
Oh, shit.
And I could call people to get them to ask you questions.
You don't need to do that.
I don't, because we know each other well enough, and I have some things that I want to know. The first inappropriate question would be, what was the most extravagant night that you have ever had where you're just spending thousands of dollars and being ridiculous?
Okay. This is a 2-part question.
That's one part, but you can give me two answers.
I'll give you two answers. Okay. Nobody on Earth could experience something like this. Well, maybe they could if they were me, but it happened to me. So I'm in a bar in my hometown. And back in the day, the ASA contest and stuff, because of the Nielsen ratings and all that stuff, they didn't air rollerblading until what? 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yep.
You know? Well, that's when the bars open. The bar didn't close until 2 a.m. Well, I'm sitting in the bar, blah, 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 pro skater, fucking girls everywhere, fucking, what happens? I'm on fucking ESPN right then and there. Holy shit. The fucking bar goes nuts. My bar tab ended up being like $3,400. I bought the whole place out. We ended up going back to a hot tub. Fucking who knows how many STDs were floating around that room, dude. It was fucking insane. And I kind of remember glimpses of it, and that was before I got married. Now, since I've gotten married, I had a pretty extravagant night because I've married an ex-exotic dancer. My wife's an ex-stripper. She loves it. She should, because she's beautiful. But her reputation in the city of Denver, there's a famous strip club here called Shotgun Willie's. And just recently, and I say just like in the last 5 years, the owner is a woman. She brought me up to the girls' locker room, which is above the main stage, and the main pole goes down to the main stage from the girls' locker room. They take the pole down like a fireman.
Okay.
And literally, the owner brought me up in there. You can't record fucking video on your cell phone and shit in the strip club. You get your ass beat.
Yep.
So the owner takes my phone and videotapes this whole thing. And I'll send it to you if you want me to. I still have this on my phone. This is fucking crazy.
Sure.
I'll send it right away. Anyways, after meeting all the strippers up there in the locker room, they rip my clothes off me. They send me down the pole head first. I think it was Christmas Eve. I still had my jeans on. So as I'm going down the pole head first, I'm working the pole because my wife has her own pole. And we'd get fucked up and play around on hers. Anyways, I remember waking up Christmas morning to take a piss and like 46 $1 bills fell out of my pants. So it's pretty extravagant or whatever, but just as far as classy, extravagant lifestyle, I would have to say that having the owner of 3 dispensaries in Denver here, he's a pretty big prominent businessman in the cannabis industry. He ended up owning one of the Cadillacs from the Entourage series, you know?
Yep.
And he chauffeured and supplied the limo for my wedding. And that was pretty cool. My wedding ended up actually having to be the most extravagant part of my lifestyle ever, where it all came together as one. With contacts, with the filming.
Hustling everything to get it done.
Hustling everything to get it done, balling on a budget, and watching it all unfold on video is pretty insane and pretty cool. Yeah, so there, answer to number 1.
All right, inappropriate question number 2. We're going to go to a darker place. What's the craziest junkie heroin thing that you've ever seen?
Ever seen?
Yeah.
My darkest moment?
No. I don't want to hear your darkest moment. Just the craziest drug addict fucked up shit where you're like, can you believe you fucking did that?
Oh, well, that would be me, because to shoot up heroin one time, I didn't have any liquid to shoot my dope up with, so I used the toilet water from a fucking Greyhound bus station. That's fucking disgusting.
It is. Do you get sick from that?
No, I've been tested so many times and over again for hepatitis and HIV. I'm so clean and it's cool. In fact, we're trying to have kids because I'm so clean.
Okay.
And on another note, the craziest thing I think I've ever seen somebody to do drugs would be, I saw a kid eat his own feces one time to get a shot. He was so dope sick. He was like, I'll do anything. And instead of like, yo, suck this guy's dick, it was more like shit in your hand and eat your own poop and I'll give you a shot of heroin.
So you've seen all that shit.
I've seen it all. It's crazy. And in fact, I probably instigated the eat your feces.
That's nothing to be proud of, Ben.
Yeah, I know. That literally gives a meaning to the term eat shit.
And I guess if he overdoses, it's eat shit and die.
That's horrible.
Sorry.
You said it.
Yeah, I
said
did.
it.
My final inappropriate question, what's the most fucked up thing you've seen in prison?
Holy shit.
Sorry, you've been to some fucked up places, man, so I might as well get the stories.
Most fucked up thing I think I've ever seen in prison would be, man, I got kind of lucky. I didn't see that most fucked up shit in prison. Most fucked up thing in prison I think I saw was, oh yeah, no, I worked in the laundry room and this one dude owed this other guy money for some fucking Xanax bars.
There are a lot of drugs in prison?
There was, but it's nothing like the movies.
Okay.
It's all glorified in the movies and shit. It's more prison drugs, medications that people get high on.
Okay.
So one dude did owe this guy money for drugs, so he got his ass whooped, and they threw him in the dryer, and they put it on heat, and they turned it on. He got pretty fucked up, man. And the only reason they found him was because of count. They made everybody stand up to get counted, and, well, they're missing one, so they put the whole prison on lockdown. Well, they found him in our dryer.
When you get out, are there things from prison that carry on into outside life? Like, do you eat
Absolutely.
Frito pies and look over your shoulder all the time?
Well, no, I don't make bricks, as they call them, like fucking ramen noodle pizzas and shit like that. I'm over that shit. But what has carried over to regular life is maintaining weight by eating shitloads of peanut butter and not looking over my shoulder, but doing what you say you're going to do, because your word is everything, especially in prison. I mean, you are who you say you are. You have to do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to put some money on somebody's books, you do that. If you say you're going to get a hold of somebody's old lady for them, you do that. In fact, I just got a call 2 nights ago from this kid in jail down in Florida who wrote me a letter saying, thank you so much for fucking coming through with your word. It's amazing that you did that, because it's rare. And that was a good feeling, because there was a time when my word was solid gold, and then it became shit. And now I'm kind of rebuilding it. And to get these little attaboys, as we'll call them, it helps, So, I don't know, just gives credit to when it's due. And man, this interview turned negative quick. Shit.
No, it's not negative. You know what? It's part of your story. It happens to a lot of people, man. Like,
Yeah.
Your story started off one way where it looked like you were going to go and be this huge successful dude, but you come from a world where your brother runs a mobile meth lab. We didn't talk about that, but that was part of your life as well. So there's all this shit that goes on in your life. You're able to make it into the glory part of being a professional skater,
Right.
But you're too young and you don't really listen to too many people because you're going to do whatever Ben Weis likes to do.
Right.
And you're not a dick about it. You're really cool and inclusive, but eventually your sport wasn't one that kept you going. If you could have had a salary for 20 years,
If it was just based on athletic ability alone and like performing at a professional level, I'd still be on TV. That part of me never died. I can still put my skates on today and skate the way I skated back when I was on TV. And what's sad is, I mean, you could probably agree with me on this, is where do you think this conversation would be going if we were as big as skateboarding,
It would be a totally different world. You would probably be retired by now with a couple houses. And who knows, you could still have had problems. I mean, lots of people have problems, but it would be a different script. There wouldn't be a homeless part, most likely.
Right, exactly. On a high note, I do want to say, like, it doesn't matter how bad things got and how bad things could have gone. They could have gone a lot worse, because I could be dead.
Yeah.
And look at, God rest his soul, Dave Mira,
Yeah.
That's a sad moment. That could have been me as well. I was on a jet plane to kill myself, and even if I would have maintained to be on TV and rollerblading would still be existing in the X Games and all that shit, you still can't run from your demons inside. You can only hide them for so long, and it's sad the way that guy went out, I can tell you that.
Yep. Well, Ben, that is our podcast. I have always respected the hell out of you. I've loved you as an athlete and a person, and then you went to be a bad person. Now it sounds like you're a good person, and I just hope you can stay good.
Well, thanks, Mike Powell. I hope to see you on the road soon. Nothing but good from now on, and I'm glad you reached out. I'm glad we reached out. I'm glad my wife reached out to you in times. You've been a part of my life through the good and the bad, and I just thank you for another opportunity to make me feel like I've got something to offer.
So that was time with Ben Weis, and what a story. There are a few things that I do want to clarify. First, Ben said that I've been there for him through the good and the bad. And that's not really true. When things started going bad for Ben, I didn't do much at all. Sure, I thought about him, but I was the furthest thing from a good friend. Really, our friendship was a paid deal. Would we hang out if I wasn't paying him to skate for K2? Maybe, but I doubt it. The next thing I need to clarify is our Amsterdam trip and Ben getting stuck in Frankfurt. Ben mentioned that all the problems were solved by me rebooking a flight for Ben and Eric, and that was not the case at all. I had gotten on my flight and took the random pill that Eric's shrine said would knock me out for my flight. So I'm on the plane, I have 3 seats to myself, and this is going to be an awesome flight. I was out before takeoff, and I wake up to a flight attendant pushing me over and over again, trying to wake me up. I open my eyes and look around, and the plane is completely empty, and I'm totally confused. I think I'm in Seattle. So I get up and deplane, and this is around the time that I carried a briefcase everywhere, so I'm definitely looking like a fish out of water. When I get off the plane, someone lets me know that our new plane will board in an hour at a different gate. I have no idea what's going on at this point, but I find the gate, I ask the person at the desk to please not let me miss my flight, walk about 10 steps away, and pass out on the floor. The gate agent wakes me up a little while later. I get back into my empty row, and I wake up descending into SeaTac. I'm still foggy-brained, but I feel about 80% back to normal. I get off the plane, thinking that Ben and Eric are in England, and that is not the case. I get a message from the K2 UK guy, pretty much saying that they didn't arrive at the airport from Frankfurt, and did I take them to the right airport. When I hear that message, I almost shit my pants. 1, I fucked up. And in a normal situation, everything would be okay. But this is not normal. These dudes are completely broke in a country where they don't speak the language, and they're an hour away from where they need to be. I'm on the phone with both airports in Frankfurt, and the language barrier, combined with the fact that Ben's last name is Weis, make it impossible for me to find him. They're like, Ben Weis? Ben Weis? Ben Weis? And weren't able to provide me with any information whatsoever. The saving grace to all of this is that the K2 guy in Germany gave Ben his card, and while Ben was doing tricks for money so he could eat and afford a shuttle to the next airport, he realized he had this business card in his wallet, and he gets in touch with his contact from K2 Germany and gets everything figured out. I did not help at all in getting those guys over to England from Frankfurt, but it all worked out at the end of the day, and those guys are alive to tell the tale. Sorry about that one, boys. That was one of the bigger fuck-ups I've ever had at work. I'd also like to mention that was the first time I'd ever taken a random pill, and based on that experience, I will never do that again. Hopefully, Ben is done with pills and heroin and fucking up people's lives. Right now, he's in a good place. But like every addict, there is always temptation. And while it's easy for me to say, oh, Ben needs to be strong and Ben needs to take it one day at a time, for Ben to actually do that, that's the hard part. If he can go into sobriety at the same speed that he does everything else, he'll be fine. But that's all up to Ben. That's the show for this week. I want to ask you to review me on whatever platform you listen to me on. If you're on iTunes, here's what you need to do. Hit the podcast icon, search for the Powell Movement, click my logo, scroll down to where you see 5 stars, hit 5 stars, and you're done. It's easy and greatly appreciated. What's also appreciated is you supporting my amazing sponsors. They are Evo, Stanley, Spy Optic, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great week.